Hello, hello. Hello.
Good morning, Wendy.
Hi. Hi, Julia. Elkie's here. Nice. Ooh. Let's just take a minute as people are signing in just to settle into the space of being here together. With a microphone on and you can shut it off, that would be great. It's always there to unmute later if you want to speak. And I'm going to show the chat here to myself so I can see if people are putting things in there. Welcome. I actually have notes today. There's a specific series of things I want us to go through. So and as we just wait another minute, I want to say I come with intention, as do you. My intention is to, I think as always, meet you as best I can, right where you're at, and help you move to a place on some subject that feels really good to you, feels like you've learned something, changed something, opened something up, realize something, and can sense that you're sitting in a different potential for the future than you were when you came on the call. So before we, so you might actually want to, as you're connecting in here, just sit quietly for a second and think what your intention is for being here as well. So useful to start always with clarity of intention. And I just want to ask if there's anyone who wants to share an experience that you've had in the last couple of weeks, something that you worked on last time or have been working on, something that shifted for you that you just would like to bring forward here.
I'm happy to share.
Great.
I've had this certain intentions about my financial situation for quite a time, and often explored like, why isn't it shifting? And I would find whatever dissonance came up, and I kept thinking, okay, well, I'm dissolving the dissonance in the way, and I'm ready for it to show up in reality.
I think if you can turn off your microphone. Yeah.
Woo! And anyway, so a couple of days ago, I think it was Thursday, I finally caught up and listened to the sound recording, and something about it really landed in a new way. And I realized, wow, I really got the principle deeper than ever. I said, well, this resonates as truth. So if my financial situation is still the old familiar mode of struggle and lack, clearly the consciousness that I am must have some deeper sound that's resonating to make sure that I don't have that intention show up in physical reality. If, you know, gravity is gravity. So I figured, well, this principle is it just is. So it's pretty simple. Anyway, it's just super simple. I just opened up and I realized, okay, well, let's find whatever this is and just lovingly bring consciousness to it. So I did, and it feels like the resonance now about prosperity is completely free, liberated. It's there's no more deeper counter intention that for some reason hadn't really ever come to my conscious awareness enough yet in terms of dissonance. And the entire day after doing that, frequently through the day, I would just laughter, hilarious laughter would just bubble up, and I had such a joyous day. And there's a deep knowingness that, okay, well, the path is now clear, and a sense or a knowingness that the new frequency radiating throughout the quantum field is already ensuring that the new financial situation is inevitably to show up in physical reality.
Beautiful. Can I ask, so when you sat in consciousness and invited that to bubble up, did it come up in a new way? Did it come up as a realization of a belief, or what was it that
let's see how I can describe it. It just happened. It happened so fast. I realized there had been another life pattern that I've worked on in other contexts. And all of a sudden I just had this intuitive knowing, oh, this is it. This is it. Mm-hmm. There had been the other times that I'd worked on it, I had, I guess, dissipated it to some degree, but not totally. And it was, I don't mind sharing what it was. It was, as often, a childhood thing. I grew up in a very traumatic environment. And even though in my perception, my father was the main source trigger for the terror within me as an infant and a young child, somehow I made a deep commitment to him, and it may have been from a past life, that no matter what happened, I was devoting myself to him and to his life, to do everything I could to let him know that he was okay. Mm. And for some reason, that devotion was so strong. Anyway, I could go on and on, but basically, I somehow I just knew instantly, okay, this is it. And I don't remember exactly what I did to finally quell that and allow it to dissolve back into the nothingness from which it had come, but it did. And many reasons for the laughter that was showing up all that day and part of the next day. It was just this tremendous feeling of finally being liberated from a sense of being in a prison that I had created. It was just this joy, like, oh my God, this is not a big mystery. It's my own creation, and I can stay in the prison. That's an option in the infinite field, or I can choose to dissolve the illusion that there is a prison here.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing. And I would love to, that's a beautiful context for us all now to move forward into shifting something that each of us maybe has been baffled by, or feels trapped by, or hasn't been able to get to the source of, or the bottom of, or the next piece of. So you just laid out a beautiful energetic template, I would say, in your experience for us to now each move forward into. So thank you for that. Does anybody else want to share a shift that they've had in the last couple of weeks as well? Or should we just carry on? I think, Pat, your microphone is on. If you can mute that, unless you're going to speak. Okay. All right. So, Pat, do you mind putting your microphone on mute, please?
I sure would if I knew how.
Oh, right. Elka, are you able to do
Okay, okay, wait,
Okay,
let
great.
me try something.
that? Sure.
Okay, let me try something here.
It's just down at the bottom left of your screen.
All I have is something that does a telephone number for New York.
Okay.
You know what? I'm just gonna hang up.
No, don't hang up. Just be still. I'd love for you to stay and be here. Maybe we can sort that out later. But let me, so today we're talking about applying shift number 8. It's the sand and I'm the sound, which as Zensha was saying is just when we see a pattern in our life, a formation in our life, whether it's a situation that we're in or an emotional pattern or something going on that has a fair bit of structure and history and reality to it. The deeper understanding is that that sand is being shaped in that form by a sound or vibrations that we are generating as consciousness itself. And so I want to give you a direct experience of that and an ability to shift that on a subject today. And we're actually going to, you know, the In Deeper process has the step of play in it, right? Invite, decide, explore, play, and recheck. And today I want to bring in a new way to play that we haven't done before. So the first place to start is to bring to mind something that remains unchanged in your life, despite your desire for it to be different. And you might even want to write that down if you have a piece of paper, but just identify something specific. There's some sand that's in this form that you're like, why is that like that? And I'm going to share, a couple people had emailed me with what they were bringing to the call. And I'm going to just identify those in a general way, because I think both of them actually are extremely broad and common. And some others of you might be able to relate to them. So one was the expectation that I'd be in a different place in my life or career or relationship by this point in my life, right? So there's something that's going on that you're like, why is it still here? Or how could I be dealing with this at this point? Why am I here? Why am I not further along? Why has this not resolved? Why am I still dealing with this? And I think most of us can relate to that. So if that is relevant for you, pick up the feeling of that one. If the one that you identified earlier is different, stick with that one. The second one that was shared, again, is, I think, one that is common, is sort of along the tone of no matter what I do, it's never enough, right? I don't have what it takes. I can't figure it out. I don't have enough energy. They're never happy. It's just never enough. So that sense of dejection or hopelessness or overwhelm maybe. So again, if that resonates for you as something you want to identify and work on in yourself, terrific. But whatever it is that you've identified, just make sure that you're clear on on what it is by this point, because I want you to have something specific to work with. And then here's my favorite question that I've had all week, couple weeks. So in the quiet of your own mind, when you think about this thing that is the way it is, that you'd like to have be different, how do you explain to yourself why this is still there? Just when you're, talking to yourself, why is this still here? And this will take you to a deeper level, I guess, deeper awareness of a background belief or understanding of why that sand is the way it is. If anyone has clarity about what that is, and it can be either something like negative, like a belief about yourself, or a belief that the universe just does its own thing and I, am a pawn. I don't have what it takes. I don't know what they would be. Just notice what the quality of feeling that deeper belief about why you believe this is still here, what that feels like. Sometimes, though, what shows up when you ask that question is actually a really positive and nurturing intuition. Something like, it's just a matter of timing. I'm still learning through this. This is serving me. All is well. Just see what's behind it for you. Does anybody want to share what you got, either in the chat or verbally? You don't have to. And if you're listening to this later, you might actually want to pause and really sort of ponder that for a little while. What is it in the quiet of my own mind that I actually, how to explain this to myself that it's still here? What do I believe? So now we're going to start working with that pattern, that feeling, that structure, that sand that has been unchanged despite your desire for it to change. And also, as Zensha was saying earlier, when he was working with that financial pattern, what bubbled up was a realization that he actually had a counter intention for it not to change, that he suddenly became aware of and was able to let integrate. So that's something worth looking at too, is just, is there a part of me that actually doesn't want this to change? And oftentimes, the reason we don't want something to change is because we have a lot of identification. A lot of our identity is tied up in this being part of who and what we are. And we're afraid that if this were to change, whatever part of me that's holding on to it, if I didn't hold on to that anymore, I don't know who I would be, which is terrifying. So just see if that's relevant for you. Because patterns stay in place generally for two reasons. One is the feeling, right? Just the vibration that it's calm in this sound that I've been emitting. This feeling that is common to me of, to use the example, no matter what I do, it's never enough. Or whatever this thing is that you're dealing with, if it's been there a while, it just feels so familiar. And then because it's familiar, we get a sense of our identity from it. You know, we'll say, I am someone who struggles with, or I am someone who's experiencing this. So it's possible to let go of the feeling and the identity at the same time. And one way to do that is just to recognize that you would be the same person if this was not going on, if this had never gone on. The you that would be observing what would be going on in your life then would be exactly the same you. So it's like you're the space within which all of this occurs. So now I actually I said I wanted to play in a different way. So if you're doing well just to stay with sensing the energy shifting based on what, we've talked about and singled out already, great. But if you want to try something new, either with this or something else another time, let me show you something. So assuming there's like a charge there, an area that feels tight or tense or a pattern that you're wanting to have shift, let that just remain there for a second. Let it be. And then I want you to notice something else, because we're going to let a different type of energy also emerge at the same time. And the thing I want you to notice is just that no matter what you've done or whatever's been going on in your life related to this particular subject or anything else, you've always just done your best. You've always shown up. You've always brought what you could to the situation. You've spent time learning, studying, trying, working, dealing with. Probably at times with things that just seemed insurmountable, and which took everything you got just to show up to. But you did, bringing what you had at the time. And right now you're doing exactly the same thing. And so what I would ask you to notice is just, I just want you to acknowledge yourself and that tenacity that you've had, that perseverance, the fortitude, the drive. And for a moment, I just want you to feel appreciation for yourself for just having continued to show up. Just acknowledge yourself for what you've been through and what you've brought. And if you can, see if you can notice some sort of quality of energy or feeling that you get when you do that. I don't know what it would be like. It might just be like a warmth in your body somewhere. It might be a soothing feeling. It might be actually some sort of loving feeling. And just pay attention to that for a second if you have anything like that. Just notice the warmth, notice the kindness, and just scan your body to see where do you sense that. It might not be quite as focused as that other energy, just because negative energies are encapsulated and discrete, whereas generally positive energies are radiant. In other words, they might have sort of a central core, but they tend to radiate out without boundaries. This may or may not be true for you. But if you have some sort of sense of appreciation for yourself, acknowledgement for yourself, just for showing up and showing up and showing up, and you can sense or feel that somehow, this is what I want you to try. What I'm hoping is that there'll be two energies present there. One is that negatively charged feeling of that thing that you want to have shift that hasn't shifted yet. And also the sort of radiant, gentle, maybe loving, self-appreciation energy. Notice how that energy or that sense of self-appreciation extends in all directions. You might not have noticed that before, but if you can now, just sort of notice how it's sort of boundaryless. Maybe it's in your chest or something, I don't know, but just find it, even if you just have to imagine it. Just imagine it radiating out from the center, out in all directions. And notice, if you can, that radiation actually radiates right into and through that place in your body where that dense structure of feeling alone, or feeling discouraged or sad or hopeless or whatever that other feeling is that's associated with that unchanged aspect of your life that, despite you wanting it to change, has been the way that it is even right now. And do your best, even if it's just in your mind's eye, to picture or feel that radiant self-appreciation energy sharing the same space as that charged area. In other words, there's more structure to the charge, there's more energy to it, there's more to notice. But sort of in the background, the substructure of it, like flowing between the particles of it, is that quality of self-appreciation, standing with yourself and supporting you as you have moved through life and continue to be in life with this thing, this situation that you've wanted to be different. And just notice what that's like as you hold both of those vibrations, even just as an idea in your mind at the same time. So this is you actively bringing a new sound to that sand. That sand, that structure, that negative charge that has words or descriptions to it and details about your life that you wish would be different, has that structure, but right now, even if it's just at the fringes of your awareness, you're bringing new vibration, emitting a new sound from the depths of your being into that space in your awareness. And you can use your imagination to sort of picture what you would like to have happen there. You might actually feel things happening. You might feel that field dissipating or softening or dispersing. You might have to consciously picture that self-appreciation sort of flooding it. Even if you can't feel it, just the intention to allow that to happen is enough. If it takes too much work, don't do it. But just if it's enjoyable for you to imagine that this is happening and to be willing to feel or sense or allow something to happen there that surprises you, something that's new, something that you haven't experienced before. So you've worked with so many energies in yourself by now. Let this be something new without trying to force it, but just allowing for something to change in a way that hasn't changed before, just because you're willing and curious and because you're not currently really identified with that pattern staying the same. You're more interested in allowing it to change. Not efforting, just seeing what is happening there. And now I'm actually going to throw in another way of play. If you're content and enthralled, involved in what's going on within you as you're sensing your own energy and allowing things to change, just stay with that. But if you want something extra that's a little different, let me throw this in. What you're focused on there right now, this aspect of your life, this way of working, the idea that our consciousness can change us from within and therefore change what we feel and then therefore change what shows up in our life. All of this doesn't exist in each of us separately, although our minds read it that way. This whole idea and potential exists everywhere in the entire field, entire universe. And each of us is just now tapped into this potential. So right now, even though I'm not consciously aware what you're dealing with, I am full, all of it is fully present to me in the quantum field. Not as ideas or feelings, but just as information. And so the way that I read that more and more these days is just my hands are picking up and sensing those patterns and being moved by them. So if you like this idea of maybe realizing you're not as alone in this as it seems like you are, if you have your video on and you want to try this, just feel what's happening inside you Awareness is there, energy's there, emotions are there, willingness is there. And imagine that those patterns are actually moving my hands. What's happening in you is affecting what's happening with me. Isn't that beautiful? Yeah, you're not alone. Back and forth we go, engaged, all of us. I mean, our left brains are going crazy because they're like, whatever. But our right brains and our hearts, just in the play of it, just in the flow of the moment, each moment new. And notice that you don't have to understand what's happening. It's actually okay just to drift, almost drop the responsibility for this into the field, because the field's sustaining it anyway. In other words, you can just back right away, like take your hands off and go, I don't know what to do. I back out. I leave this in the field, and the field goes, whew, thank you. Get out of the way and let me show you what can be done. And that takes a degree of trust. And your mind might keep popping in there going, what's happening? What's happening? Wanting to control. That's okay. Let it. And then just keep bringing your awareness back to that place in you that is appreciating you for showing up, even to this, even right now. Always willing to be where you're at and allow something different to occur next. Even if a part of you is saying, this doesn't work for me. This isn't going to change for me. I've tried things before. Just drop that into the field and let the field take it. And just do your best to enjoy you being alive right now, aware, focused in a really unusual way for a human being. Aware of yourself as an individual, right now acutely aware of yourself as consciousness, working with energy on this incredible path of self-discovery, self-remembrance, growth, deepening your skills, working in this realm that so many of us shut down. We were never taught that we could dive in here and do this kind of thing. So whether you're a beginner, whether you're seasoned, the field is meeting you here now. Infinite intelligence here right now. Working with you, working with me, knows exactly where you're at on this subject, able to meet you right where you're at and open up something new that's just the next best piece for you. Whether it's an insight, whether it's a freedom, a realization, awareness of an action to take, just a feeling to enjoy, just a pleasurable way to spend this time in this now. As consciousness itself emerges and the field itself makes a stronger presence into the human mind, as tangible, as real, as reliable, and as a natural resource for you that you can lean more and more into over time. So, and if you're still working with something there, you can stay with that. It feels on my end, but that's as much as I have to say. So if anybody wants to speak or share, ask a question, we've got time for it. If you want to just stay where you're at and drop off, that's okay too. So much of what we just started stays with you, even when you click away.
That was really fun. Work on a health issue I've had for quite a long time. Same as what I said earlier. It's so easy. It's so easy and so fun. Wow. So grateful for you and your pioneering spirit.
Thank you. And same to you and everyone. I mean, it's a realm that we have the capacity to move within and understand and get familiar with. You know, we know our mind so well. We know what it's like to think. We know what it's like, to reason. We understand our bodies so well. We know what it's like to use our muscles to lift things, but we have so little education and language around working in the realm of emotions and energy. And the more time we spend in there, the more familiarity we get with the landscape, with the wordlessness that's in there, and just the enjoyment of being with energies that are conscious and work with us. So, yeah, and then when you go in there, right, words start to come, feelings start to come, but it's just a practice of being there and allowing that connection to be there and then being fluid with it.
I do have a question if it's still time to ask a question.
Yeah.
You often say, talk about the right brain in a way that I talk about consciousness, and I haven't quite integrated it, but I'm open to the idea that your understanding is that the right brain is the quantum field, and it knows everything about me. It knows what my intentions are. It knows everything that in the way, for example. And if that's the case, what's your understanding about why? If that is so, why is it that this wisdom, this natural intelligence, innate intelligence of the right brain hasn't already completely effortlessly dissolved all the stuff that's been in our way? Is it just my theory, for lack of a better one, is that we've just been at a level of evolution where that hasn't been what needs to play out, that these millennia of human beings stuck in the logical mind and struggling, etc., has been part of the evolution, and now we're entering a new phase, or have entered a phase, where this is on its way out, and that more and more human beings, the human condition is going to be that, as each infant is born, they are the open space of all that is, in terms of consciousness that's already, in a sense, awakened, and doesn't need to have all sorts of issues and stories and blocks to work on.
You said everything I would say. Absolutely agree. I don't actually know why I started talking about left brain and right brain. It came to me one day.
Mm-hmm.
This is a simple way that we could all understand the distinction between the part of us that reads things as separate and reads things as one thing. So if I say right brain, it's the same as some people understand as heart or feeling, same as consciousness. It's just this state where there's only one thing. So it doesn't matter what word you use to describe.
Oh, okay.
And at one point I was actually thinking, how did I come to that? And I realized it was, probably the first way that thought came to me was when I read Jill Bolte Taylor's book, where she completely lost left brain awareness. So she had no ability to differentiate things, name things, remember things, have a past, present, or past or future, no identity. She was just awareness itself, aware of energy. And that is what, and so that, we don't often get to distinguish what does our right brain do versus our left brain, because we got the both and they're working together. But that gave me such a great sense of, oh, this is what the right brain is aware of. It's like reading reality as wave, as opposed to the left brain, which reads it as particle. And I don't know that there are studies that demonstrate that, but wouldn't it make sense that we would have two parts of us if, there's wave or particle, and then we have two ways of reading and interpreting them. So, whether we'll actually see that, that's measurable, but just it's such a useful distinction because each of us understands the concept, and it's proved pretty useful so far. But yeah,
Okay.
Yeah, and I totally agree. I just think it's time. Humanity needs to evolve. Consciousness needs to evolve to a place that's beyond where we've been until now to solve the problems that we have. And the way that that happens is to have a much greater sense of ourselves as all part of the same thing.
Okay.
Right? One thing happening here. And from that, new ideas and new insights to solve all kinds of things will just naturally flow. And yeah, what you said, all that, I agree.
Okay, great.
Thanks.
Very helpful.
Anyone else want to comment about anything that what that exercise was like, whether you were able to do it or not, where you're at now compared to where you were when we began? Anything?
Wendy,
Yeah.
I just want to say I find it so much, it's easier. You put the science with the woo-woo, I guess I would say, because I've done stuff with energy, and I've been, I don't know, kind of working towards this for years, but having the quantum physics explain what's going on has sort of been the tipping point for me, where it's like, oh, because I'm a person that always wants to know, well, why? So I just want to say how much that helps to come at it from a side where I've been working with energy some, but then having you put this is what's going on from the science-based world. It's very, very helpful. Thank you.
Oh, yeah, thanks for saying that, Wendy. And same for me. I used to be I used to be a medical professional. And so all of this woo-woo stuff, energy stuff, was so bizarre to me too. And it was like such a dissonance between the two worlds that I inhabited. So when I sort of came upon that there are explanations that we can understand, and be able to get wrap my brain around the fact that this is science as well, it just helped me gain traction too. And also the ability to speak about it in a way that didn't make me feel like, you know, I was woo-woo, but more just on the leading edge of where science is going. So yeah, I feel the same way as you, Wendy.
Yeah. Oh, thank you.
And honestly, you know, just having created the Big Brain Change, the 6-month coaching program, was such a beautiful exercise for me of having each piece kind of come out. I didn't know what was going to come, so just having the language come together, and now to be able to go through it myself a second time too, right? For those of you that have been through it before, and just sort of see how it builds. It's really satisfying to me to have been part of that, but also just sort of in some ways a recipient, but also responsible in the way that, you know, we each are in our own lives. So thank you.
Yeah.
Anyone else? Question, comment?
You know, I'm definitely noticing a difference in how I react when other people will say things like, you know, they have health issues or something, and they're so not resigned, but they've just accepted it as fact. The doctor told them that this is never going to get fixed, or this is going to happen, or this is what it is, or whatever. And they're just like, yeah, this is it. And inside me, I'm like, no, like this one idiot told you something and now you've internalized it. That's not right.
Mhm.
So my
Nice.
worldview is changing a lot.
Yes, I agree. Yeah, I like the fierceness in that too, Wendy. Yeah, for sure. Anyone else? We can just close out as well. That was some beautiful exchange of information and energy today. All right, well, I am just going to stay with this continuing waving of energy that I still sense, that maybe some of you still just sort of working through some stuff. So I will stay with you on that level. And I will post this later today for those that are going to listen later, and we'll see you again in 2 weeks. Thank you, everybody. And thank you for thank you for the input, Zen Show, and also Wendy. That's always so so wonderful to have your input as well. All right, bye everyone.
Bye. Thank you.